Hello everyone, I welcome you all in this class of science for grade 7th. Today we are going to learn the new topic, that is reproduction in plants. So, the first activity that you need to do is to identify the parts of a plant as they are shown in the video. The first part, it is called flower. The second one, leaf. The third one, fruit. The fourth part is stem. And the fifth part is called root. Very good. Now, what are their functions? The flower help in reproduction. The leaf help to perform photosynthesis. The fruit protects the seed. The stem supports the plant. And the roots are used to absorb water and minerals from the soil. I hope you recalled all these things. A question must be arising in your mind that what does reproduction mean? So, the reproduction is a process of producing new individuals of one's own kind, and this process occurs in all the living organisms, whether they are plants or animals. The reproduction is of two types, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. So, asexual reproduction means when a new plant is formed from the cell of a single parent. It is considered as asexual reproduction. It is of three types: budding, fragmentation, and spore formation. In budding, this occurs in yeast. They are produced by budding and are microscopic fungi with a single oval shaped cell. In this method, a small bulb-like outgrowth called bud is formed from the parent cell. This bud then increases in size and separates, forming another yeast cell. The second one, it is fragmentation. Spirogyra reproduces by fragmentation. It is a green algae that found in water bodies. In this method, the body of the parent part breaks into small pieces called fragments, and each fragment grows up to become a new plant. The third one, it is called spore formation. Moss is reproduced by this particular method. In this method, small spherical reproductive bodies, which are called spores, are produced. Each spore has a thick protective wall that protects them from unfavorable condition. And when the conditions are favorable, the spore bursts and germinates into new plant. I hope you easily understand what is the asexual method and its three types. Now let's move to the new topic, which is vegetative reproduction. It is a type of asexual reproduction only. When new plants develop from vegetative parts of the plant such as root, stem and leaves, it is considered as vegetative propagation, and this propagation may be natural or artificial as well. The natural method includes the involvement of roots, stems and leaves, whereas the artificial can be done by cutting, grafting, layering and tissue culture. So let's see how the vegetative propagation takes place in roots. Roots of certain plants can develop into new plants, for example, roots of sweet potato, carrot, radish and dahlia. The another type is of stem. This vegetative propagation take part in stem. The stems known as tubers, bulbs, corms, rhizomes and runners can develop into new plants. The tubers, bulbs, corms and rhizomes are usually found underground. The runners. The runners are the horizontal stem that emerge from the main stem. They have nodes where buds are formed. These buds grow into new plants, for example, the runners of strawberry, grass and mint. Now, the rhizomes. Rhizomes are irregularly shaped horizontal stems. They have buds which give rise to new plants. For example, the rhizomes of ginger, turmeric and banana. Let's see the bulbs. They are thick, short, underground stem with fleshy leaves from which the new plant arises. For example, the bulbs of onion and garlic. The third underground stem is tubers. Tubers have buds which are also known as eyes. Each part of the tuber containing the bud can give rise to a new plant. For example, the tubers of potato and turnip. The fourth underground stem that perform vegetative reproduction is corms. They are short underground stem swollen with stored food. It has buds that can grow into new plants. For example, the corm of Colocasia and Gladiolus. I hope you understood. The next is leaf, which can perform vegetative propagation. Leaves of certain plants form buds on the leaf margin that develop roots. These leaf buds give rise to new plant. For example, bryophyllum. Let's see the artificial method of vegetative reproduction. The artificial methods are used by some farmers and scientists to produce identical plants from the parent plants. These methods include stem cutting, layering, and grafting. Stem cutting. In this method, a part of the stem with a few leaves attached is cut and placed in the soil. After some time, new roots and leaves grow from the base of the stem cutting plant, such as rose and cactus. In grafting, the method involves a new plant with desirable qualities and which can be developed by two different plants. The shoot part is called cyne and the root part is called stalk. Cyne is attached to stalk and after a few weeks, the cyne and stalk unite to grow into a new single plant. Plants such as apple and roses are grown using this method. The next method is called layering. In this method, a mature branch of the part of parent plant is bent down and covered with soil. The tip of the branch is kept above the ground. It also done by removing the outer layer of the back of a branch, covering it with moist soil and wrapping with a plastic sheet. Layering is usually done in plants with long and slender branches such as jasmine. The another method of vegetative reproduction is tissue culture, where tissue samples are scraped from the parent plant. Then they are placed in a separate place to growth of medium containing nutrients and auxins. Then these samples develop into tiny particles. Later on, these particles, which are also the plantlets, they are planted into the compost and they grow into new plants. That's all about asexual reproduction. Let's move to the sexual reproduction. It is a form of reproduction that involves the fusion of two reproductive cells called gametes to form a single cell called zygote. Now, do you know the sexual reproduction is carried out by flowering plants? The flowers are hence the reproductive organs of a plant. The flowers can be categorized into two types. The first is which is called complete or bisexual flowers and the second which is called incomplete or unisexual flowers. Those flowers that contain both the stamen and the pistil, they are bisexual flowers such as rose and hibiscus. But those flowers that contain either a stamen or a pistil, they are called unisexual flowers like corn and papaya. Now, as you can see in the above picture, the flower contains male and female part both. And in the below given picture, the male part is separated and the female part is separated. Now see what is stamen and pistil. The main organ of the flower is called as stamen, whereas the female organ is considered as pistil. The stamen bears anther and contain pollen grains which produce male cells or gametes, whereas pistil composed of stigma, style and ovary. The ovary produces female cells or gametes. Now, the pollination. What does it mean? The transfer of pollen grains from the anther to stigma of a flower is called pollination. It is of two types, self-pollination and cross-pollination. When the pollen grains are transferred from the anther to the stigma of same flower, it is called self-pollination. But when the pollen grains are transferred from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower, it is known as cross-pollination. Now, the agents which perform this pollination. As you know, the agents are some different persons or the organisms which help us to do this natural phenomena. The wind is one of them. Wind blows away the pollen grains from the anther of one flower of the stigma to the another flower. These flowers are small, they are not bright in color, and they do not produce nectars. This pollination happens in wheat, rice and maize by wind. The insects, they also are the agents of pollination. They pollinate the flowers which have sweet smell, they are brightly colored petals, and they are white light green petals. They are rich in nectars. What is the speciality of these type of pollen grains? They are sticky in nature. Now, after the pollination, or you could say the transfer of pollen grains has happened, there is the need of fertilization, the final process after which the flower would be ready to produce the seeds. Now, during pollination, pollen grains reach to stigma. Some pollen grains grow and form long thin tube called pollen tubes. The pollen tubes contain the male sex cell. The ovary contains the female sex cell, which is called ovule. The sex cells are commonly called gametes. The pollen tube allows the movement of the male gametes through the style into the ovary. Inside the ovary, the male gametes fuses with the female gametes and hence the zygote is formed. This process of fusion of male and female gametes to form a zygote is known as fertilization. After fertilization, ovary enlarges and forms the fruit. The wall of the ovary becomes the fruit wall. The ovule becomes seeds. A fruit may have more than one seed also. Petals, sepals are the other parts of the flower which usually dry up and fall off after the seed formation. So, when the seed is ready, it can be dispersed now. The process by which seeds or fruits are secreted and you could say the scattered from one place to another are called seed dispersal. Seed dispersal takes place by several mechanisms. It could be dispersal by explosion in pea plant, castor or balsam, or dispersal by wind in dandelion, drumstick and maple, or dispersal by water by plants like coconut and lotus. Dispersal of seed can happen by animals also. These are the cocklebur and spear grass. When the seed is properly dispersed, the germination takes process. A mature seed remains dry and inactive till the conditions are favorable for germination. When the seed gets right amount of water, air and suitable temperature, then it germinates into a new baby plant. So you could say the germination means the process by which a seed gives rise to a new plant. Now, what is the advantage of vegetative propagation over asexual or sexual reproduction? So, by vegetative propagation, you get the exact copies of parent plants. Often, it is easily and simple as compared to sexual reproduction. The large plants can sometimes be produced in a very short period of time. The good quality and uniformity among plants can be produced by vegetative propagation. I hope this helped you to understand the concepts. That's all for the day. Thank you. Have a nice